exactly. The, sort of like clowns in a Volkswagen here. Per console. And it's pretty versatile, it's automated. I can store my settings on floppy disk for recall at a later date if necessary. I also have a Sonic solution system, and that's a great tool for CD assembly and for editing. I don't use it much for EQ because I think that this is somewhat more efficient. It doesn't require a load in. The automation is pretty much foolproof. But for making CD masters, you can't beat the Sonic. It's, in my opinion, a whole heck of a lot better than the 1630 for my purposes, in terms of the hardiness of the media, the repeatability, the lack of digital dropouts and errors that I used to have to cope with on a regular basis.
Yeah, after the Sonic, on what support does it go? Do you do a CDR? Or
Yes.
goes on CD?
We cut 2 CDRs. One goes to the client for approval, and one we keep here to use as a master for blast mastering.
So your master is not a 1630?
No. If I never have to see another 1630 again, as far as I'm concerned, I'll be a happy guy.
What is your CDR? What is your CD machine?
We have 2 Sony CDW900Es. They are the best CD burner that was ever built. They're out of production. You can't get them anymore. They were among the first, and I believe they were probably over-engineered. And they're very reliable.
There's good things about their 920s as well.
The 920s, are they the small?
Yeah, they're smaller, but they're also...
We have one of those down there. Those, however, cannot be daisy-chained together. And so you write a disc, and then you have to write a second disc. These, I wish I had 4 of them, you know. These you can hook up one right into another and write simultaneously to as many discs as you have machines. And that's extremely convenient. It also ensures that the discs are virtually identical within the limitations of the media. So that's also helpful from a a reality check point of view. You know? Yes.
Does the disc you cut from need to be a PMCD cut from Sonic, or can it just be your standard CDR?
It depends. It doesn't have to be from Sonic, but there are degrees of quality of discs that are being burned out there, produced out there by different sorts of machines. We have also one of the tabletop machines that you can cut a track at once and then mess around with the table of contents, and those are very difficult. It's impossible to use them if you use them as a track at once device. They put massive amounts of error in between.
Of a disc at once mode, is a CDR, what is the difference between a PMCD and a CDR?
I believe a PMCD is just a terminology that Sonic uses for their pre-mastered CD. Effectively, anything that you would make from a DigiDesign system or a Sonic Foundry system is, as long as it conforms to Red Book standards, it's okay to go. The only caution is that you can't have E32 errors, and you can't have excessive amounts of block error rate. And we've had hundreds of discs, probably thousands, right, guys?
Yeah.
Russ? Thousands of discs come in, and a certain percentage of the ones that are made outside always fail. And they may fail repeatedly. You may ask the client to submit a second disc, and you may again have problems with them. It depends on the software and the quality of the software and the quality of the match between the disc and the CD burner itself. We use the green dye discs. We tried gold and found out that the laser temperature of the laser that was cutting into the dye layer is different for a gold disc than it is for a green disc, and it's probably different again for a blue colored disc. So green for us is the only one that works. Gold will literally burn through. The laser literally burns through pinholes into the disc and makes it unusable. And all it takes is one. There is no such thing as an insignificant E32 error. You know, one will mess up your whole day.
Are you talking about taking in CDs that are intended directly for replication, or CDs as a possible source material for you to master and then output through your system?
For replication.
Right.
If somebody submits a CD and then wants a CDR, and then wants to have me EQ it, or wants to have me put more precise start and stop IDs on it, or do any kind of work whatsoever with it, as long as it plays, we play it digitally into the sonic. As long as it plays without glitching or you know, muting in any way, then we can make it work digitally. The digital transfer, it basically starts again, you know, all over again once you feed it into the sonic. As long as it goes in, we're okay.
If there's nothing to be done with the program material, though, and you get a CDR that saves a step, then getting a DAT, that's a
Yes.
benefit.
If you can, again, if you can make yourself satisfied with what you turn out in your studio and make your CDR, all well and good. You know, engineer, give it a listen because of the perspective and the familiarity with the room, the familiarity with commercial constraints, and the advantage of having somebody who's done this before look at it and listen to it, because with the advent of inexpensive recording setups and home recording being easy to do these days, you know, it used to be, you know, you get a master from a recording studio and you had a fair degree of certainty that someone who understood the final end use of this product was involved in making the tape. Now, well, it's
limitations of the medium.
yeah, it's largely the same, because there are fewer limitations using direct metal mastering than I ever had with lacquer cutting.
So you don't cut the lacquer?
No,
just the metal.
Direct metal.
Yeah.
That's it. We manufacture our own blanks. We do our own plating. We do our own pressing.
Don, show them that if you could. Something that
Well, actually, I
look
don't
at
think
this.
I have to go here. I mean, we start off with a fixed amount of space.
Do you
Do
have
you cut disco singles or 12-inch?
Boy, do I ever! We own the charts. Every week in the Billboard dance charts, out of the top 50, I average 5 to 10 records out of the studio, and it's something that I've gotten used to listening to purely by working on it. It's not necessarily what I choose to listen to in my spare time, and fortunately, I think that's a good situation, because I don't get burned out, you know. I still go home and turn on the stereo at night, you know. Indigenous music from all over the world, rock and roll. I could play some really raw stuff that just walked through the door here. Totally off the wall. I mean, you never know. You never know on a given day what's going to come in and what you're going to have to deal with. And so you sort of have to check your biases at the door and try to make whatever it is sound as good as it can.
Have you ever been involved in test records, laboratory type calibration records, things like that?
We cut the NAB test record here. Yes.
Do you turn off the ventilation when you work?
This.
Got that noise too.
No, I don't. This room.
You're used to it.
Well, I'm used to it. I mean, you know, in an ideal situation, I would like to have, you know, a totally isolated room. I came into this room, however, and it was a functioning, working room, and basically I just stepped into it and started to use it, you know. I didn't have the flexibility of redesigning the whole place. I just got used to the way it is. You know, you have to be adaptable. I wish there was an unlimited budget and we could gut this place and, you know, redesign and rework it. It might not be the most ideal acoustical situation, but It sure is effective. Yeah, it works.
And the vibrations we feel in our feet don't get transferred.
The lathe is suspended on springs and totally isolated from the environment.
Is there a computer like a Zuma in that lathe system?
Yes, except it's better than a Zuma, I feel. It's a Neumann disk computer.
Oh.
And I tell you, after having worked on everything from fixed pitch devices through, geez, I don't know, what the vary pitch, you remember the Scully vary pitch machines, and I've worked on Zuma, and I've worked with Rand Steel computers and all sorts of things, and this thing is, knock on wood, God, this thing is great.
That's the best reproduction.
Well, I mean, for my purposes, you know, when you're dealing with a very pitch situation and a great deal of dynamic range, you calibrate this system so that 1/10 of a mil will allow you to cut without overcuts. I set it for 2/10, and I haven't had an overcut in 4.5 years. I just haven't. And that's awfully tough. I mean, I stress the system. There's no question that I put it through its paces.
When the DMM system first came out and was getting more attention because CDs hadn't hit the market, there was some sort of what you call negative feedback. People were saying they didn't like the sound that was coming back off the copper. I'm assuming, obviously, you like it because you aren't doing any lacquer work. Has the technology matured through your experience with it, or do you think that was an unfair reaction in the first place? Or?
Well, I tell you, there are still people who say they like the sound of lacquers better than the sound of coppers.
You mean direct replay, or do you mean press?
No, the way they go to vinyl.
In other words, the finished product that they prefer. There are some people who prefer the finished product that results from a lacquer cut. How it's softer. However, I think in terms of accuracy, and I think this is a much more accurate system. It doesn't have the flexibility of the groove wall. The record itself, the master record itself, is a hardier substance, and it's not given to degenerate because of humidity or time or temperature. It's a more accurate cut. You don't hear post-echo or pre-echo on these things.
Yeah.
Maybe it's some people like tubes and some people like solid